waiting for a bus and following a route. That's not the model for the Lyft. But I bet that's not widely understood.
I agree. I don't think most people know that.
Maybe it's much bigger thing, right? Maybe you may not be able to just squeeze it into the survey. It's more of, if I'm picking up on what Andrew is saying, it's more of an educational aspect. First of all, people need to understand how one is different than the other, then asking them the questions of how much of interest that is there. Probably based on what I'm hearing, it's an entirely different thing. You could take it out of this context and probably it's a later thing. As a planning for the next iteration, but doing it way ahead of time so that you can see the shifting public sentiment and doing probably a couple of different surveys over the period between now and the next round of RFPs and when you're planning for the next change. Probably this is too short a notice to incorporate something ad hoc in the current survey.
So maybe part of this plan, I think that Doug is hatching, that he's going to probably run, which is the citywide transit study.
Yeah.
Doug, please let me know how I can help. I love that.
Well,
Come on, Doug.
I'll make two quick statements. One is, how do you model the change in users when you make it so easy and convenient that I can be picked up from my house and taken anywhere, so that it could be responded to in an RFP with a fixed price for the city to actually pay for or budget for? Because I think it's kind of like that fuel cost thing in our RFP, which is like, it could fluctuate a little bit, but that's not a lot of fluctuation. But if we quadrupled our riders and suddenly we're paying 4 times the price, we're gonna be in big trouble. So we need to figure out a way to model that type of
maybe Doug,
problem.
one possible model is that city is only subsidizing the transit cost. So whether it is $3 or $2, whatever you're doing, that's where you stay. Any of the premium goes back to the rider. So it is a choice they're making and saying, I would choose this. There is a premium, I understand, but my transit ticket is still honored on that. I'm only paying the delta. So it's a convenience without increasing the cost for the city. It's an option.
So the price could change throughout the year for a ride.
If it is Uber and Lyft, if it's the green cab, it is because they're more regulated, there is a fixed price, they do not have surge pricing. But the point is though, now it is up to the transportation providers to come back with specific offers, saying that, hey, let them compete, right? Going back to the open economy kind of a thing, people can come back with saying that, hey, I will offer $6 or $9 ride from there to the UW hospital. And by the way, we'll honor the Monona Transit thing. That means if you already have a transit, you only pay $6 to go from Monona to the Square or to the UW. And if you're willing to pay the premium, you're getting the convenience of getting a shorter commute, right? And probably some flexibility into the timing as well. A fixed route system also has fixed schedule, right? If you miss it, you missed it. So the cost, the convenience aspect of it, are you willing to pay a premium for that? How do you offer more choices without increasing the burden for the city?
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Yes.
Thank you.
I mean, I do like the idea of getting people thinking about that, because here we are thinking about this ransomware attack on a pipeline and gasoline. We don't know what's going to happen there, and those variables and RFP, how is that going to affect it? I tell you, I've been thinking about that, and it's a little bit interesting. So it's kind of interesting to get people thinking ahead about different options. But thoughts on that from anyone? Do you want to include that here, or do you want to do what Jim said and push that over to Doug's citywide transit survey? Okay, but maybe we should embrace our opportunity to educate about the Lyft, that the Lyft is doing this with a scheduling tool for that educational opportunity. So with this question then, Doug, so are we including this question? Do you currently use?
I would like to know how many people are using that type of service for their transportation. I think that would be helpful to us. Yeah. Those are potential people that we could use that we could get to use our system.
Jim?
Agree, totally. I think let's just keep this as is. We'll get some information I don't think we've ever gotten before.
Yeah, and Addie?
I was actually thinking if we go back to the question about what mode of transportation they use, we could
Yeah.
combine it with what modes they use and how frequently they use them and gather that information from all of these modes of transportation.
Uh-huh.
You know, how often do you use a personal vehicle? Every day, most days, never. How often do you ride the bus? How often do you use a ride share, Uber, Lyft, walk, bike? So we could combine the modes of transportation and the frequency of use of modes of transportation into one question and actually get both of those things answered, because we'd be able to say, you know, relatively, most people are using their car the most, and number 2 is blank. And we could figure out relative to our bus service, how much ride shares or ride hailing services are being used.
The axe strikes squarely in the middle.
Yes.
We need a sound effect.
At the end of this, everybody, can we like write a letter to one of my colleagues and be like, you did a good job, she learned something?
Absolutely. All right. Okay. I like both of those approaches. I think that question about the taxi and hailing service will be really interesting, and Addie's points on that's, I think, the way to go. Okay, so moving on, I'm kind of made it if we were going with demographic data, so Mark could just copy and paste it. So age groups, yes, no,
Yes.
Yeah. Pretty basic. Ethnicity, thoughts? I thought that might be useful.
Yeah, good for the DEI portion and just to know if how we're doing. Do we have these data for the city writ large? So we could say 10% of Mononans are African American and 5% are riding the bus. Or 5% of the bus riders are African American. We could do that comparison.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, we would just use census data.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, and then how many cars do you have in your household? Yes, no? That's kind of a little more citywide transit study. But do we like that idea?
I don't know how we use that info.
I don't know. I don't know how we do either. Kind of just a curiosity, I guess. Once again, like you said, how are people getting around?
Yeah,
Well, and
it's a broader-
actually, I think the census will tell us that, because the census has really good questions about how many cars, where do your trips originate, where do your trips end? So, you know, some of that information on Monona we can pull from not the overall population count census, but the every 2-year subset of census data that they run. So that's actually answerable questions from people in Monona.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so car ownership, I think we have higher quality data to answer that question.
Oh, the background is priceless there, Andrew. Sorry. The axe throwing competition has begun. All right. Okay, so we'll leave that one off. And then, okay. Are you a driver or non-driver? Yes, no? Do we care?
Are you calling a driver somebody who knows how to drive and is licensed, or somebody who actively drives every day? What's a driver? Because
I think
I'm
I was-
licensed to drive. I'm able to drive. I drive maybe 2 times a month, and I ride my bike the rest of the time. So I'm like, am I a driver? I don't.
I think that's really what I was going for, because I was thinking more about the Lyft. Like, are those folks drivers, but they are opting not to drive because that service is so convenient and so helpful, and they have a bus driver who helps carry groceries, those types of things. But I don't know that it's necessarily relevant for this survey.
A
might
bit
be more the
open
city
to interpretation, I think, as Addie mentioned.
challenging. Okay. Do you ride the bus in a typical year?
And I think we'll pull that from other questions that we'll ask, right?
Okay.
Is there a reason we haven't asked gender? I mean, I'm just thinking of the general demographic questions we often see. I don't know what we would do with it, but
It's in Molly's list of demo
okay.
data.
Okay, and then the next lump of my questions, they were service and convenience issues. Yeah, so what are the largest barriers to you in riding Monona Transit? Thoughts?
This is a
I think
nice-
it's like question 1, right?
It's the open-ended version.
Or opposite version.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then if your car is not available, what mode would you use? Yeah, these are, I think a lot of these have been hit on. Would any of the following things make you more likely to ride Monona Transit? Increased hours of operation, adding a bus stop location closer to your home, weekend hours. Oh, did we, yeah, Addie, what do you
I
got?
like that, adding a bus stop location closer to your home. That's a new concept. I think this is the first time we've touched on the convenience of the stops. Because there's some people that the route goes right past their house and they still have to walk 8 blocks to get to a stop. So that might actually be a good question or a good stem to add to that first question. Because right now we say the routes were expanded to include more places I need to go. And maybe the stop, we need to add a stem there. The stop is convenient to my home.
Yeah.
Or we could educate people that they'll pick you up any single place that you desire along their route.
Right.
Service doesn't have stops. The stops define the route. Like we need some way to describe the route, but it's a route. There aren't.
That's insider
stops.
knowledge, though.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
first
it
time I
is.
rode the bus, this confused me so bad.
Yeah. So we need a little educational section of questioning, where we need to kind of talk about the lift and our hybrid on demand there. And then,
Anybody who responds to the survey should get a marketing email from our team that shares with all great information that they don't know.
Not just one email. We put them into our funnel and they get a drip.
yeah, exactly.
And perhaps a coupon for a free ride on the bus.
It is I mean, that was one question I was thinking about is since this is going out in the Monona email newsletter, we will know the email address of the people responding, or we will know the email address associated with the email. Do we put that email address in the survey link and make these now identifiable to us by email? It would just tell us a response rate. We sent out the email to 4,000 people and we got 20 respondents or 200, et cetera. But it would give us their emails and be allowed to follow up with the people who answer the questions and say, thank you so much. Here's what we learned from the survey, response.
Mm-hmm.
There will be, so say we put the link on the city's website, just in a basic post on the homepage saying, fill out the transit survey. When people come in that way, we won't be able to track any email, just through the constant contact newsletter. Yeah, that would be the only way. But so we would end up with a pool of no emails and some with emails, but it's all good. It's still good to have, we would get some probably. I'm sure we would. And I did put down, I did put my last one. Would you be open to serving on a focus group to help make Monona Transit blank as an opt-in? And then if so, please put your email address in or your contact information. If we wanted that option, I didn't know if we would want that. I thought that might be if we ever wanted that, it might be useful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think.
Can you go back up to the two above that? Did we-
Yes,
did we-
okay,
did we-
so.
What improvements would you help to choose public transportation? Do we hit that one? If you had 3 locations, what would they be?
Yes,
Did we talk about those two?
no, we didn't. Well, so the 3 locations, what would they be? Did you think we didn't need to add that because,
No, I was just asking what everybody else, if we didn't really
Yeah,
talk about if that's something we're adding or not adding.
the committee had said that pretty much any location can be added?
Yeah, there's no, I think we could strike that because there isn't such a thing as a bus stop. I know there are signs that say it's a bus stop, but there are an infinite number of bus stops.
Okay. And then what improvements would help you choose public transportation? I think Molly had a question very similar, right?
When I fill this out, I will say I need more acts on the transit committee meetings.
Yeah, okay. Point taken.
I was just
All
trying
right.
to be funny. I wasn't making a point, sorry.
Okay. I'm like, okay, you want that one cut. Okay. Any thoughts on that one? What improvements would help you choose public transportation as an open-ended?
Which is kind of similar to that question 1 of what factors make it more or less likely that you'll ride the bus.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
Yes, but if this is the
Okay.
way to get an open-ended version of that question in, then I'm still in favor of it.
Yeah.
Actually, I mean, at the end, we could ask a very broad question. How can we improve the Monona Transit Service?
I like that.
Mhm.
Especially after they've gone through, hopefully they've learned some things and it's gotten their wheels spinning and they're primed. Yeah, I like that idea. Great suggestion. All right, are there any big questions that we're missing? Does anyone see anything that we've, the gender question we said we'll add in?
Does it matter about homeowners or owners versus renters? And are we asking it all about people who may work in Monona but not live in Monona? I mean, I don't know exactly who's on the mailing list, but are there people who say own a business in Monona but don't live here?
And we do occasionally get riders who are not from Monona. We'll just miss those people.
Yeah,
There's a person who started picking up the bus by Crema Cafe, and I think she lives in Madison, but it's the most convenient way for her to get to the UW hospital.
You can get the bus at Crema?
Yeah.
Wait, can I get on the bus at my house and get off? No, I just ride my bike. But I'm thinking like, it's snowing. I could take the bus to Crema. But yeah, renters versus property owners. I don't know if it matters, especially if we're asking something about household income, because those two things are very, very, very tightly correlated.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it matters for, representing the demographics of people in Monona.
I would be interested in seeing it. I don't know that it's necessarily useful, but it would be interesting to see. But yeah, I'm not sure necessarily what we would do with it or how it would impact our service.
Axe.
Could be an axe. Or could be
Yeah, I'm
an
axing my own idea there.
all right. So anything else? Any other comments? Mark, do you have a way of kind of summarizing how many questions there are there that you've got there, like in one branch?
1, 2. We dropped that one. We dropped the question, if you're a current rider, how often do you ride Monona Transit? Did we decide to drop that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was on the,
I-
that was a low priority one, so we dropped that
Okay.
one then. So 1, 2,
It's potentially gathered by the other question about how frequently you use various transportation means, right? If we're getting a read on that there, then it's more than it's redundant, then that we don't need it.
I think I'm counting 12.
Oh, that's a good, I think that's a real digestible number.
And actually, I think we only have 2 questions only for writers.
Then
I
maybe
mean,
we can
of course, the first question is, in the past so many months, have you rode the Monona bus or Lyft service, right? So that's the branching question. And then I think of the people who say, yes, they've ridden the bus, the only follow-up question is about what about Monona's bus service works well for you?
Maybe
That's
we
all
don't
I
need to
have.
branch. Because then it's irrelevant. If you're a current writer, if we just have those questions, if you're a current writer, blank, and then you can skip it,
Yeah.
rather than apply some branching that's going to, like you said, we're probably going to get half a dozen writers who reply. Not enough to really power any kind of statistical significance.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts or comments on the survey, or Shri, did you have any other comments on the survey, or?
Oh, we're good on the survey.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Feeling good that we can move on, everyone? Okay. Moving on, then, new business. We have discussed potential committee contributions or suggestions to the city's ongoing and expanding DEI initiatives. What I thought I would do is I would email everyone. We just received our first report. It was the assessment by Nehemiah, their first assessment of their initial findings. So I can email everyone that report. The city council, we just reviewed all of that last Tuesday, I think it was. So I'll send that your way for nighttime reading. It's interesting.
I think Molly wanted as a standard
Oh, as a standing item.
stating item for a while here.
Does anyone have any? Doug? Are you gonna say?
I think it would be great. I'd love to read what the assessment says, and I think it would be great to discuss as a group after we've seen that.
Yep.
And I have a few things that I'd like to kind of prime us to maybe consider talking about. Often, I think we go through the agenda quite routinely and don't revisit or discuss our charge as a committee, or we just gotten so routine. So I was brain dumping on a sheet of paper, and because this is public information, I didn't send it out to everybody. But I would like maybe at our next meeting to just kind of revisit our transit commission mission statement, talk about the things that relate to public transportation that we don't regularly talk about because we're very bus focused, and maybe just analyze ourselves as part of a regional transportation system and kind of see if just look for opportunities that could connect us to the broader mass transit network around us. We're kind of operating in a vacuum.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking a little bit about that and studying like what bus routes are in our area and things like that from Madison Metro. I don't want to, our meeting is running long, so I don't want to bring it up now. I just want to throw it on there. Maybe it comes on the agenda in the future and we make it into a discussion later.
Great ideas. Anyone else?
Christy, I got a couple of things, but I'll defer to others if they have anything else. If not, I can go last.
Anyone else? Go for it, Shri.
Okay, so I got 3 things I wanted to bring it up. So one is more tactical. Mark, probably you could answer the potential RFP date, when the RFP will be out. I'm sorry, can you hear the ambulance?
Oh yeah.
When the transit out,
When does the RFP go out was the question.
I
When-
had to
when-
hold,
when
I
is
had
the RFP?
held it for, because I had to, they had some procurement issues. I had to make sure we were following those, so we'll go out probably beginning of next week.
Great. And also, just a related question, I could not find it on the website. If I could get access to the earlier responses, that would be good for me to understand the earlier RFP and the responses. That will educate me better to respond to the current one. I could not find those copies on the website. If you could kindly share that with me, that would be great.
The 5 years ago RFPs that were sent
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
I'll have
and
to
the
send them to,
responses.
they're not on the website, so I'll have to.
Yeah, that's fine. But the one thing I wanted to share with you is a little bit of information. I just wrote an article in League of Municipalities. You know that the ARA funds are being released for various communities, various municipalities, and they were encouraging some pilot projects. One of the pilot project, Robin asked me to kind of suggest some projects, and I recommended a EV, electric vehicle pilot for transit. So it is for your information, right? So there is level of private and public match where you can find a partner, us or somebody else, to actually try out electric vehicles as a transit option. The goal there is better alignment of environmental goals and transit goals in a community. Historically, they were very divergent. At least no collective thought or no inclusive thought was given. How do the environmental goals for the community that you want to reduce emissions and what have you versus the transportation options? Probably, Doug, it will fit into your broader idea of doing a holistic transportation analysis, trying to get a better alignment between those two. I just wanted to put out there, share with you that the article is going to be there in the June issue, and their League of Municipalities is encouraging municipalities to start evaluating some pilot projects, which can be quick wins, where you can demonstrate very quickly learning projects, whether you find it is effective or it is not. So just, I wanted to share that with you because I'm working with the League on that one. And by the way, I will be bringing in some electric vehicles. I just wanted to ask you guys if you are interested in seeing that. I'm looking at and talking to some vendor to bring in one 19-seater and one with wheelchair access, ADA compliant 11-seater, fully electric vehicles. That's what I'm actually looking at from the RFP perspective. But if there is any interest on any of your part, I'll be happy for them to bring in demonstration vehicles so that we can take a look at it. And the last one is just an idea I want to just ask you, because we just talk about COVID and the impact of it and the capacity and capacity utilization, right? Things are fluid, things are changing. Right now, Jim, you talked about probably 6 feet apart, sitting 6 feet apart and what have you. One thought that crossed my mind, and we're exploring this with another corporation, is the concept of reservations. So if you can reserve a seat on the bus, right, you can contain the capacity. So planning, you're encouraging people to plan ahead to either you reserve a capacity, you say, I want a seat. It might not have to be, I want 1C or 3D, but you can just reserve a seat. That way you can contain no standing room only, like that. It will be more fluid to implement with your policies as they evolve, as the COVID situation changes, right? So there may be some value in considering a reservation kind of a system. Just a thought for you to explore, not to discuss right now. Clearly, we don't have time, but something for you to reflect on it and see if that would be of some interest with respect to technology. Then you are giving the technology for people to book a seat or a specific seat. Mm-hmm. Those are the three things. Thank you very much for listening.
I would love to see the 19-seat van. I would love to see it. If you have that somewhere, you let me know. I don't know, would anyone else on the committee care to see an electric?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really nice.
Awesome.
So
We can have our next committee
about-
meeting in it.
yeah, we totally could.
I'm coordinating with the vendor. We are right now working with a large corporation where we are trying to provide some commuter options for their employees. So as part of that, there is a strong interest to actually see the vehicle. So ask the vendor to bring the vehicle. I can coordinate and I keep you posted on when. So it's okay if I can get just the 19-seater, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because it will be much easier to get one vehicle than two.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
That's
Thank you.
great.
I'll keep you posted then. That's awesome. As things come together, I'll let you know and we can coordinate and probably you can even take a run and we can do them on the road.
That would be very cool. We could do our meeting possibly on that EV. Cool. Yeah, that's all great food for thought, thinking about airplane reservations for a bus. That could come in handy down the road. All right, anyone else have anything else in that section? Feeling good? Okay. Awesome. We got a lot done. And Addie, thank you so much for working on the survey. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll
So
move.
moved.
I'll second.
All
Thank you
right.
all. It's great to see you all.
All right,
Thanks,
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All in favor of adjournment?
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks, Mark.